everyone. Welcome back to Daily English Chat. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jan.
And today we're diving into something I think a lot of learners struggle with.
I can already feel it. Alex, can I just say, I run into this all the time. I've studied tons of vocabulary. I watch a lot of TV shows in English. I do listening practice. But when I hear native speakers talk, it's like my brain just freezes. It's too fast, and I can't catch it. Why is that happening?
I know exactly what you mean. And here's the thing. This isn't about the number of words you know. Your vocabulary might be great, but the real problem is how your brain processes language.
Wait, so it's not that I don't know enough words?
Exactly. Think about it like this. If your brain is trying to translate every single word one by one, by the time you get to the third or fourth word, the speaker is already on the fifth or sixth. That's why everything feels so fast. It's not them. It's just the way we were trained to learn English.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's like I've been trying to catch a moving train while walking on the platform.
That's a perfect metaphor. And honestly, I hear this from so many learners. Most people feel frustrated thinking, I must learn more words, when really it's about training your brain to process chunks of language, not individual words.
Chunks of language. I'm intrigued. I guess that means there's a smarter way to listen that doesn't involve just memorizing a gazillion words?
Exactly. And that's what we're going to explore in today's episode, how to start thinking in English phrases and chunks, so listening and speaking starts to feel natural, almost like your brain is tuned in to English.
I like the sound of that. Honestly, I can't wait to hear how we actually do that.
Don't worry, Jan, we'll get there. But first, if you've ever felt like you're missing half the conversation, this episode is for you. You're not alone, and it's not your fault. It's just how the brain works.
Whew, that's comforting. Okay, I think listeners are already nodding along saying, yeah, that's me.
Perfect. All right, let's dig into why we actually struggle with understanding native speakers, and more importantly, what we can do about it.
So, Alex, I still don't get it. I've memorized loads of words, done listening practice, watched tons of shows. Why do I still struggle to understand native speakers?
That's the million-dollar question, Jan. And honestly, this is where traditional school English often trips people up.
Oh, how so?
Well, in school, we learn English in a very word-by-word way. First, we memorize lists of vocabulary, then we put the words together to form sentences. It's very mechanical, and the brain gets used to processing language slowly, one piece at a time.
Okay, so the problem is with the way we were taught.
Exactly. Picture this. The speaker says a sentence, and your brain is still translating the first word. By the time you process the second word, the speaker has already moved on to the third or fourth. You're constantly a beat behind.
Oh, wow. That's exactly how it feels. Like, I hear them, but my brain just can't keep up.
Right. And here's the tricky part. Most learners assume, if I don't understand, it must be because I don't know enough words. So they memorize more vocabulary, thinking that will solve the problem.
Guilty as charged. I've done that so many times.
And yet, even after you memorize tons of words, the same problem persists. Why? Because it's not about individual words, it's about how you process language.
Can you give me an example? Something real life?
Sure. Let's say you're at a coffee shop. The barista says, "Do you want to grab a latte?" You catch latte, maybe grab, but the rest just goes over your head. Your brain stalls and you miss the meaning of the whole phrase.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what happens to me. I just hear latte and blank.
Yep, and that's the core issue. Native speakers don't talk word by word. They speak in chunks or phrases, groups of words that your brain can process as one unit. If you're still thinking word by word, you'll always feel like you're falling behind.
Chunks.
Okay, so the problem is I never really train myself to think in phrases, huh?
Bingo! That's the heart of it. What most learners call not understanding isn't a vocabulary problem. It's a chunk thinking problem. Your brain just hasn't learned to process English in natural groupings yet.
That makes so much sense. So even if I know 10,000 words, if I'm still translating word by word, I'll still struggle.
Exactly. And it's important to be patient with yourself here. This isn't about being slow or bad at English. It's literally how our brains were trained. And the good news, once you start training your brain to recognize these chunks, everything suddenly becomes much more manageable.
Now I'm curious to know how to do that. But I guess we'll get there soon.
Yes, we will. First, it's key to understand why we're stuck. And this chunk thinking idea explains a lot of why people feel frustrated with listening.
I feel like listeners are nodding their heads right now. Oh yeah, that's me. I feel exactly like that.
I'm sure they are. And knowing this is half the battle. Once you realize that the problem isn't your memory or vocabulary, but the way your brain processes language, you can start to approach learning in a smarter way.
All right, I'm ready. Let's find out how to actually train our brains.
Exactly. We'll get into practical strategies in the next section. But for now, just remember, struggling to understand isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that your brain is waiting to learn a new, more natural way of processing English. All right, Jan, now that we know why so many learners struggle to understand native speakers, it's time to talk about the solution. And it starts with a conceptual shift.
Conceptual shift? Oh, I like the sound of that. Can you explain?
Sure. Right now, most of us are thinking in individual words. We translate each word one by one in our head. The shift I'm talking about is moving from word-by-word thinking to chunk thinking, processing groups of words or phrases as a single unit.
Chunk thinking. Okay, I'm intrigued. But what does that actually look like? Can you give me some examples?
Absolutely. Let's start with high-frequency phrases you hear all the time in daily English. For instance, at the end of the day, or by the way. These are phrases that function as a single idea. You don't translate each word individually. Your brain recognizes the whole thing as one unit.
Oh, I see. So instead of thinking end plus of plus the plus day, you just think at the end of the day equals basically ultimately or in the end.
Exactly. Another way to do this is to focus on versatile sentence patterns. For example, can you tell me, or I don't know if... These are sentence frames you can plug different content into. Once you internalize the pattern, you can produce sentences naturally without translating word by word.
So it's like having a template in your brain that you can reuse. That sounds super practical.
It really is. And here's another trick: shadowing or repeating after the speaker. When you hear a chunk, repeat it immediately, copying the pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. Don't try to spell it out word by word in your head. Just mimic the flow of natural speech.
Got it. So I listen, then repeat, focusing on the sound and rhythm, not individual words.
Precisely. And the last piece is context-based practice. Put the phrases into realistic situations, like ordering at a cafe, greeting someone, or making a phone call. This way, you're training your brain to recognize and produce these chunks in context, not just in isolation.
That makes a lot of sense. Could you give me a concrete comparison to really see the difference?
Sure. Let's say you're learning the phrase, go out. If you're thinking word by word, go plus out, it's harder to catch and sounds unnatural when listening. But if you think of go out as a chunk, your brain recognizes it instantly. You understand it, and you can even respond naturally.
So the difference is huge. Word by word, it's like my brain is slow and clunky. Chunk thinking, It's instant.
Exactly. That's why the real key isn't memorizing more words. It's learning to grab whole expressions or chunks. That's what makes listening and speaking flow.
So, just to summarize, instead of piling up thousands of words, I should focus on high-frequency phrases, sentence patterns, shadowing, and putting phrases into real-life scenarios. Got it.
You got it. And the amazing part? Once you start training your brain this way, English starts to feel, well, more like a natural language, not a puzzle you have to solve word by word.
I can't wait to start practicing this. I feel like it's finally something that actually works in real life, not just in a textbook.
Exactly, Jan. And this is just the beginning. Once your brain gets used to chunk thinking, listening becomes easier, speaking becomes smoother, and everything starts to feel more natural.
So, now that we've talked about chunk thinking and how to practice it, let's talk about the real impact it has once your brain gets used to it.
Okay, impact, huh? I'm intrigued.
First off, your listening improves dramatically. Suddenly, it doesn't matter how fast native speakers talk. You catch phrases naturally, almost automatically. The flow of English becomes, well, manageable, even enjoyable.
Oh, wow, that's huge. So I won't feel like my brain is constantly lagging behind?
Exactly. And the best part? Your speaking changes too. Because you're thinking in chunks rather than translating word by word, you start to speak more smoothly. Sentences come out naturally without that awkward pause where you're still translating in your head.
Ah, so that explains why I always freeze mid-sentence sometimes. It's my word-by-word thinking slowing me down.
Bingo! And there's more than just practical improvement. There's a psychological impact as well.
Psychological impact? Go on.
When your brain is comfortable with chunk thinking, you gain confidence. You feel less afraid of making mistakes because you're not trying to assemble sentences word by word. You're using natural thinking in English.
Oh, I like that. So it's like my brain becomes tuned into English. I can just go with the flow instead of overthinking everything.
Exactly. And once you start experiencing this, learning English feels less like a chore and more like a skill you're naturally using. It changes the whole mindset.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So not only do I understand faster, but I also feel more confident talking.
Absolutely. And the impact spreads further than just listening and speaking. Reading and writing also benefit. When you're familiar with chunks, sentences make more sense instantly, and writing flows more naturally because you think in phrases rather than isolated words.
That's really encouraging. It's like all aspects of English improve just by training your brain differently.
You've got it. And the key takeaway here is this isn't a shortcut or some magical trick. It's about training your brain to process language the way it naturally wants to. Once you do that, English stops feeling like a puzzle and starts feeling like a living, breathing language.
I love that. I can almost imagine the feeling, listening without stress, speaking without hesitation.
Exactly. And that's why chunk thinking is such a game changer. It's not just about learning more vocabulary, it's about changing your mental operating system for English.
Wow. I really feel motivated now. I can't wait to put all this into practice.
And that's the beauty of it, Jen. Once your brain is trained this way, everything from movies, conversations, to writing emails becomes easier. The confidence, the flow, the natural understanding, it all comes from thinking in chunks.
I think I'm finally starting to see the bigger picture. It's not just learning English, it's rewiring the brain for English.
Exactly, Jan. And that mindset shift is what makes everything else click. So let's bring everything together. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today's chat, it's this. The problem isn't that you don't know enough words. The real challenge is the way you process English. You need to shift from a word-by-word mindset to a chunk-based mindset. That's how you build what we've been calling an English brain.
Right, I love that phrase, English brain. But I can imagine some listeners are thinking, okay, that sounds great, but where on earth do I start?
That's a brilliant question, and I'm glad you asked it, Jan, because here's the thing, you don't need to do anything complicated. Start small, start simple. Next time you watch a TV series or even listen to a podcast like this one, don't try to catch every single word. Instead, try to catch phrases. Pay attention to little clusters of words that always travel together.
So instead of getting lost in the details, I'm zooming out a bit and listening for patterns?
Exactly. And let's make it practical. I'll give you a small challenge. Today, just pick one phrase. It could be something simple like, by the way, or at the end of the day. Use that phrase in a text message, in a comment online, or even when you talk to a friend. One phrase. That's it.
Oh, I like that. That sounds totally doable. And if you keep repeating that process, one phrase a day, you'll have dozens of natural expressions in just a few weeks.
Spot on. And the magic is, the more you do it, the more natural English will feel. Bit by bit, you'll start to notice that you're no longer translating. You're just using English.
Brilliant. So to everyone listening, don't stress about memorizing endless vocabulary lists. Just focus on chunks, one at a time, and let your brain adapt.
That's the spirit, and we'll be here to guide you along the way.
Absolutely. So before we wrap up, here's my little reminder. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe or follow our podcast. We'll be diving even deeper into chunk training and sharing more practical tips next time.
Can't wait. Thanks so much for joining us today. And remember, build your English brain one chunk at a time.
Perfectly said. See you next time.
See you next time.